Everybody, welcome to Hollywood WordPress. Come on in, take a seat. There's some beer over here that is provided by WeWork, so feel free to grab some beer. How's everybody doing? Good. How's everybody's WordPress websites? Not good. Okay, well, I'm sorry to hear that. Is anybody having a good experience with WordPress? Okay, good. Okay, so this is Hollywood WordPress. I'm Greg Douglas. We do this once a month. We've been doing this for about 2 years. How many people here are brand new to Hollywood WordPress? A couple of folks. Cool, cool. Welcome. There's a lot of other great WordPress meetups around the LA area. If you don't live in this immediate area, you're looking for other meetups, all you got to do is go on meetup.com, look for your area in WordPress, and there's probably a meetup there. There's something like 20 meetups between San Diego, am I right in saying that? 20 meetups between San Diego and Los Angeles, all the way to Ventura, okay, to Ventura too. So anyways, there's a whole bunch of meetups. Some of them are awesome. Some of them, no, but you're at one of the best ones. Tonight what we're doing...
One of the best ones.
Oh, so for additional announcements, we have a WordCamp. When's the next WordCamp that's coming up? Orange County is the next big one in June. And then LA is going to be in September. What are some other ones that are in this general region? I guess Miami's happening, but that's nowhere near here.
You should definitely go to Miami though. That'll be awesome. WordCamp Europe's in Spain.
Okay. Yeah, so WordCamp's happening around the world.
Hamilton is coming up.
Other than that, I don't have any crazy announcements happening. I do like to open the floor during the announcements time. If there's anybody that has a WordPress gig where they're looking to outsource work to another freelancer, or if there's another announcement that I might have missed, feel free to make the announcement yourself. Just raise your hand. Let me know you have an announcement to make. Okay? The other thing I like to do is I like to thank WeWork for providing us with this really cool location that we get to use every month. They're one of our sponsors. So they're rad. If you guys are looking for hot desk or co-working space, WeWork is really awesome. This is a great place. I've come out here and hung out here before. If you are looking for that, just ask me about it. After the meetup tonight, I will connect you with the right people. Our other sponsor, SiteGround. There's just one thing I've got to say about SiteGround. Besides them being an awesome WordPress host, if you're looking for cool WordPress hosting, they provide us with great socks. Okay? So if you need socks like this young gentleman up here in the front, that's what the socks look like. They're available back there on that table. Please, you guys, keep your feet warm. If there's one thing that I could extol, if I could just encourage you guys in some way, it would be just to keep your feet warm. I know there's a lot of causes to fight for out there. There's a lot going on in the world. But, I mean, summertime, you may not need socks as much during the summer. But I want you to keep your feet warm anyways. That's how I feel about it. That's how passionate I am about feet warm. Okay, so basically, you've come here on a cool night because this is an opportunity where you're going to be able to ask questions to practicing WordPress experts, consultants in the field, people that have been building products, plugins, specifically for the WordPress community, serving people like us. So, if you are a person, let me ask, how many people here are working as consultants using WordPress? Good number of folk. How many people here would like to build products for the WordPress community? Is there anybody in that space? Okay. Well, we're going to probably have more consulting questions. That's cool. How many people here are just blogging or building their own website using WordPress? Okay, cool. All right. then we may have a lot more questions in that space, just building your own. So those questions are welcome too. So if you're just trying to build your own website and that's your main goal, totally cool.
What do you mean by product?
What I mean is, in the WordPress world, we have plugins that they use to build websites. People will, as independents, build plugins for the WordPress community, and in some cases, those plugins are premium.
Yeah.
So they have the free ones on .org you can just always download for free, but then some people on their own websites will build whole companies around building plugins for the WordPress community. And then there's another level of product, or what I would consider a productized company, which is a company that's built to serve the WordPress community, but it's not necessarily a plugin. So you might have a good example of a company. What's a good example of a company?
Webmaster
SiteGround.
user like his plugin.
Yes. Webmaster. Well, that's a plugin still, right? So like
premium plugin.
Oh, WP Radius. Brandon has WP Radius. So we'll let you talk about it. But what were you gonna say? Code Cavalry. Okay. Here's a good example. CodeCavalry.com. Good. Really, yeah. Really good. So yes, we're gonna get right into this. This is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna ask you guys as we're getting situated here, and I'm asking them the first questions to get things started and get things rolling. I want you guys to tweet your questions in to HWWP Meetup. Okay, so at HWWP Meetup. And I'm gonna be using the Twitter account to ask the questions to our group. This way we avoid the whole thing where it's like, you ask the question, then I re-say the question, you know, that whole like back and forth there. Okay.
What if I don't have Twitters?
If you don't have Twitters, then you shouldn't be here.
Give your question.
No. If
Have
you don't
somebody
have
else
Twitter,
tweet it for you.
We're gonna
your
do
neighbor
we're gonna do a session right now on signing up for Twitter. No. We're all gonna walk through it. Everybody's gonna sign up.
Download.
Okay. Like this is no longer a WordPress meetup. It's now a Twitter meetup. Okay, so as you guys are thinking of your questions, you're tweeting them in.
HWW? No, at. Is it at?
At, yes. At, so I can read it.
At HWW.
Hollywood WordPress, HWWP Meetup. So at HWWP Meetup.
Let's crash the car.
Whoa, that's okay, so we are going to get started with the Ask the Experts WordPress questions. And to get started here, I prepared a couple of questions to just kind of, one, to let you get to know them a little bit, and then a couple just to kind of get their perspective. So, the first question I have for our panelists is, I'd like you to introduce yourselves. I'd like you to talk about what your company does, and yeah, so that's going to be the first question. Each of you are going to answer that one. Feel free, like as the questions are coming in, feel free to just answer the questions that you feel like answering. I don't want everybody to feel like they have to answer every question. Okay, so Roy, we're going to start with you. So introduce yourself, say what you do with WordPress.
I'm Roy Sivan. I am a full-time consultant over at Disney, doing WordPress development for Disney. I also own, or co-own, I should say, Art Control. Art Control is a product-based company which creates plugins and applications for WordPress consultants. So one of the great examples is Code Cavalry. Code Cavalry is a website where you can go and get help for whatever you need code-wise from experts, and you can have video chats with them, and you can talk with them. And the main point of Code Cavalry is that when you're done with your session, all that they ask in return is a tip, not $100 an hour or anything like that. So codecavalry.com is that website. We have a few more plugins that are coming out, so that's, I'm all WordPress all the time for the most part.
I'm Brandon Yanofsky, and I have two companies. One is mywpexpert.com, where I do freelance WordPress consulting and development. Primarily troubleshooting and then custom theme development. And then I also have WP Radius that Greg mentioned before. And that is a maintenance and support company where basically you pay flat monthly rate and you get unlimited support and just general maintenance on your WordPress site. That's it.
Hi, I'm Eris Blevins. I'm the owner and creative director at Team A Design. We do design and development for small and medium businesses. We specialize in unique aesthetics that are simple to use.
I'm Natalie MacLeese. I'm founder and principal of Purple Pen Productions. We build websites for small businesses and nonprofits. And I'm also a co-author of a WordPress plugin called Draw Attention, which helps you make interactive images within your WordPress site.
I'm Nathan Tyler. I've been doing client work and web development since 2003 and probably full-time with WordPress for the last 4 or 5 years. And I do plugin development as well, where we sell a few plugins for one is for if you're giving your site to a client and then it limits their access to the dashboard. And I also work on Draw Attention with her. And that's it.
Cool. Okay, so we have experts here that have done consulting work, they have built products, and they've been in all manner of kind of seeing WordPress and using WordPress. So as you guys are asking your questions, remember it's at HWWP Meetup. We'll be getting to those questions here in a minute. I have one question for the group that this is something I like to ask people that I am friends with in the WordPress community. And so this is just something that comes up from time to time. The question is, where do you think WordPress is going in the next few years, 3, 4, 5 years? So Roy, I'm going to get your take on this. Where do you think WordPress is going?
Well, I come from a developer background, so I would say that from a development point of view, I think it's going to push more towards being kind of both a continuing a small business and SMB creation tool, so creating small business websites. But I think you're going to see more and more people wanting to use it for higher level products and enterprise level tools. So things like, even at Disney, we deal a lot with these unique custom use cases where we're building very intricate, unique websites for people which are powered by WordPress. And I think that that's just going to continue to grow as WordPress developers who are kind of coming into the space now or have been in the last 5 or 6 years are kind of maturing and graduating up a level, and they want to take WordPress with them as they get older and as they get more, let's say, knowledge base as far as code goes. Also, code itself, PHP itself is advancing, so I think we're going to see a cool mix of continuing of this high-end enterprise mixed with small business kind of parallel to it.
So I kind of agree with Roy on that. So I mean, the one thing I would say though, I see, and I hope this will happen, that there on the end user side for people just getting into WordPress, that there's going to be a simplification of WordPress, and I'm starting to see some areas where that's happening. So I kind of hope there would be like 2 tracks: one where there's the more advanced developer-oriented WordPress, and then one where there's more user-friendly, simplified version. And already I'm seeing applications pop up where people make a WordPress-specific application that's only for instance, restaurants. One's called, I think it's on pickle.pub, where basically it's a very simplified version of WordPress, where it's a one-page website where you just go in and insert the text that you want to have appear on the page, and that's it. That's all you can really do, but it's really simple, really easy. So that way you get more small businesses involved in it and entry-level people using WordPress and being able to do it on their own without having to spend a lot of money to get up and running. So that's where I hope to see it going.
Yeah, I think these guys are on point with some of the larger things. I think.
Please speak up, please. Can't hear a word. Can't hear you.
I mean, you heard one word, but. So yeah, I think that we're probably looking at no more back-end editor, probably front-end editor soon. there won't be so much separation between content and what your final theme looks like. Pickle starts to do that, and I think it's something that the community is really focused on, where you won't have as much concern about shortcodes and things like that. I think you're going to see a lot more directly what your content looks like.
Okay, I'm going to be a downer. So there's a pretty predictable life cycle of software products where a product comes out, it's simple, it's easy to use, everybody wants to use it, they jump on board, but then they want to use it for 100 different things. So all these new features start getting added, it gets more and more complex, until finally some newcomer comes on the field with something simple that completely takes over the market really quickly. And I have a feeling we're kind of getting close to that, and I don't know what it is that's going to take over from WordPress at this point, but it's just kind of getting a little weighed down under its own features, I think, and might be taken over by something soon.
Traitor.
No, it's not Drupal.
The light footprint of Drupal is not going to do this.
Yeah, I agree with all those things said, and I think that we will see more advanced uses in WordPress. Like we're seeing more plugins that are full applications, like you can do full invoicing and document signing and everything in WordPress now, like replacing systems like FreshBooks and Harvest. You can do a lot of that, but then you're seeing
What is that? Sorry, tell more about that? I didn't hear.
what, FreshBooks.
Yeah, something like that in WordPress.
Oh yeah, there's a company called Sprout Invoices.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Yeah, and there's a document signing. They're just plugins that go in WordPress. So we're seeing like really sophisticated plugins that are really full applications. But like Natalie said, like there's so much things that WordPress can do, and we're just going to start seeing more and more flavors of it. Ones that are specialized versions just for restaurants. We're going to see specialized versions just for blogging, or forks of WordPress that are done just for blogging. We've already seen that starting to take off, because WordPress is like, if you're just going to do a simple blog, it's not necessarily the simplest thing for the average user to do. So I think we're going to see WordPress like explode into a bunch of different little niches, and I think some will get taken over and some will be used for sophisticated uses.
Cool, thank you guys. And I'm not going to share my opinion of where WordPress is going. It's a very post-apocalyptic viewpoint. So no, I'm joking. I think. All right, I'm going to share my opinion. WordPress is going to take over the world. No, right now WordPress occupies about 23% of the internet. How many people here knew that? Like, it's a crazy number if you think about it, because it's almost a quarter of all websites on the internet are WordPress now. Now, granted, a great number of those are shitty, but they are still websites, and they're still on the internet. Yes, question?
You know how many websites are online right now?
They're like 1 billion.
1.3 billion moving up. So
There we
that
go.
means that there's over 250,000 WordPress sites out there.
That's amazing.
It's nuts.
Yeah, so just the sheer magnitude of that, I think Natalie may be onto something in simplification, maybe move away from WordPress. I think right now WordPress does have such a large share of the internet, it's going to be hard to kill, or it's going to be hard to kill completely. Maybe the share will go down in the next 5 years, but I do still think it's going to be a force to be reckoned with. I think there's going to be a lot more businesses and a lot more innovation that's going to come up still within the WordPress space, and people are going to find ways to make cool companies for a good while longer still. But that being said, technologies come and go, and who knows where we'll, I remember thinking Flash, when that was the thing in 1999, 2000, I was like, Flash is so cool. This is going to keep going. I don't see any end to Flash's reign, and then just a matter of a few years later, this device came out,
You know what's going to take over?
What's that?
Jetpack.
Jetpack's going to
keep
swallow
on
up.
loading it with stuff, and then it's just going to be like WordPress Lite.
All your websites belong to Jetpack.
And they're not even going to be fast. They're going to be slow.
Okay, so I'm going to get to our first question tonight, and any one of you or two of you or somebody can answer this question if you feel like it. And if you want to, you can raise your hand. You can own this question if you want to. If you don't want to, that's fine. No worries. I have a plugin called Due to Mobile, which makes my mobile site look really bad. Is there a better one? So I'm guessing that the question is there a better plugin to make a website mobile? Correct? Okay, got it. All right. What do you guys have to say about making your website mobile and a good plugin for this? And have any of you used Due to Mobile?
I've used it.
Okay, what is your experience with Due to Mobile?
I mean, it's okay for what it is. It's not the best. I would say if you have to go with something, WP Touch Pro is probably the best.
What's it called?
WP Touch Pro.
The only reason I have that is because I sell products, and I needed a page on my static page where I could align everything properly, and that's the only reason I got that. And it just doesn't look well on a tablet now.
Yeah. Well, WP Touch is basically it's like a mobile theme in a sense. They have a couple different themes that come with it, but it basically restyles your site for a mobile device. So it's very mobile friendly, but you're going to lose a lot of your design on it. So that's the only downside, but it's very mobile friendly. I would say the only thing, going away from your question a little bit is going with a responsive theme in the first place. But if you can't have that.
I thought it was, but it's been, I think I did this last year, and now I'm realizing I'm going to probably have to do that. So
I mean, if you have to, WP Touch is probably one of the best options. There are also a couple other options that Google recommended. I forget, I don't remember the exact link to it, but when Google was announcing the whole mobile-friendly algorithm change, they had a couple links for what they recommend you should do if you have a WordPress site. One of them was WP Touch, and they had two others. I don't remember what they were, but if you just Google, mobile-friendly, Google. If you Google that, you should probably find that page, and they have those 3 recommendations there and what they recommend.
thank you.
All right, so a question that goes along with that one is, what are your favorite free WordPress themes or theme frameworks? So in this case, I'm sure they're going to be responsive, the ones that you suggest, so it kind of goes well. What is your free WordPress theme or theme framework?
Okay. We generally build themes from scratch, but even with that said, we build using underscores.me. It is a theme, it's a starter theme put together by the automatic theme team. It is best practices for how you should be building themes when you're starting out. It's something you can build a commercial, saleable theme on, or just whatever client-based work you're doing on. It is responsive. It does not have any style. It is a purposely very simplistic style theme for you to build out something that looks the way you want it to, but the core of it is very fast and it does everything correctly in terms of how to program a theme. So underscores.me has very good documentation, and if you're interested in doing things correctly from the perspective of people at Automatic, that is the way to do it. On the complete other end of the spectrum, there's a theme called Make that I think they're doing a pretty good job. They allow you lots of little drag and drop layouts. It is responsive. It's pretty simple looking, but it's easy to update. The thing about this theme, this is not part of the question, but this has to be said in every single thing that ever happens about WordPress. It doesn't use Visual Composer to allow you to get your different layouts, which is really important for when you ever stop using that theme. When you go download or find free themes and they're relying on Visual Composer, you are stuck using that for the rest of the time. None of the changes will go with your next theme, which is something that a good theme should allow you to do. Your content should be on one side, the theme should be on the other. Visual Composer muddies that up and makes it confusing. So generally, you want to try to avoid that. Make is a really nice option if you like. I need something drag and drop, where I can say this page should be 2 columns, and break that up. They have come up with a better solution. Still not as good as it should be, but it's a much better way to go.
So, for you, make is better than visual.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, make theme. They have a pro version you can get that has like an absurd amount of layouts, hundreds of layouts or something.
Does everybody know what he's talking about when he says Visual Composer? Yes? No? Okay, do you want to just describe what Visual Composer is?
But Visual Composer for people is a plugin, not a theme.
Well, Visual Composer is a plugin, and what it allows you to do is you go on the back end and you have what they call content blocks. And so instead of the body, the editor in WordPress, when you go and type all your content, you have this sort of quasi drag and drop interface where you say, well, this is a header, and you type some things in there, and you click over here, and you can add a slider, and it's all very interesting. There is no content editor because all that stuff is shoved into the editor inside of shortcodes, and it's impossible to use it. It is just a plugin. However, it is a plugin that is highly, highly relied upon by people building premium themes and free themes that are not on the WordPress.org theme repository. So like things that are on Envato or Theme Forest or whatever, I don't know, that monster theme or whatever that thing is. A lot of those that offer like, oh, we've got all your various purposes you could ever imagine covered, are using Visual Composer to your detriment. They're locking you into something, and it would be unclear to you until you change the theme later how much you've actually tied into that theme data.
I'm almost there.
Are you using Visual Composer right now?
I worked with a company and I told them that basically, I'm familiar with another platform called HubSpot that has a lot of drag and drop capabilities. And I'm trying to build a WordPress framework that runs something like this other platform, right? And so I said I really would like to, I understand there's drag and drop themes, I'd really like to use one of those. And instead of giving me a theme, they set me up with a Visual Composer. I'm liking aspects of it, but I'm still not sure it's really what I want to use. So this discovery process seems to really go on, and I'm frankly getting frustrated. I'm now looking at something called page lines.
I mean, I think it's good. I think they have similar data issues.
So going back to what is the right theme for responsive and drag and drop at the same time as possible?
Okay, so drag and drop, I mean, if you want to build websites using WordPress and you have lots of content that you want to put into the pages and you want to use like a visual drag and drop, just understand you're probably going to get locked into a tool that's a drag and drop tool that comes with that theme or that plugin that you use. It's not until you're able to step away from that plugin completely and say, okay, I'm going to develop the columns for my content myself. I'm going to develop each one of the content that I need to appear on the page. I'll develop using HTML5, CSS3. That's where you have to go a little deeper. If you don't want to touch the code,
default pages.
Working with default pages, right, correct. If you want to use a Visual Composer, you can do it. Just know that you're getting locked in with that thing, and a lot of the content that you sort of put into the Visual Composer will get lost if you try to move away from that strategy.
So what you're describing, it may be a perfect solution. If you're working with a company and it's like, we're building something, we're going to keep doing things the same way for the next 5 years, that is like an entire aeon in internet time. And that's fine. Like, you can use it in Visual Composer, it's going to be around and making plenty of money. Like, all that's good. If it's something where you're experimenting, you're not quite sure of the business model yet, you might want to change things, Visual Composer, as Greg said, will be a tool that you're going to need to keep dragging with you from here forward. Once you put a lot of data in, if we're talking about 5 pages, it's okay, let it go. It'll be a little frustrating to redo it. But if you're like deep in, you've got 20 pages, they're like really important. The way this thing lines up with that is the entire business right there.
I'm not deep in yet because I'm really trying to figure out what's going on.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so to stay on that question, go ahead.
A kind of related question. I build WordPress sites for novelists and writers, for artists, creative people, and they're pretty visual. They don't have databases, they don't have stores, they don't, there's occasional sliders, whatever, but I kind of handcraft each using a thing called Artist Sphere. And I'm very dexterous with it now. It's how I learned to build WordPress sites, and I can make the design very quickly in a design sense, what the background's like, what the page colors are like, what the header's like, and I can do this very quickly. But I feel like I'm locked in there. So I've been trying to learn, new ways, and I kind of, stumbling along, found these things like Ultimatum, and there's one called Diva, which are kind of these modular theme builders that you build online, or if you're using a local server. But they don't seem as easy to style, just pure style. I guess the question is, if I found a tool that maybe is a little lame, but actually very powerful in terms of what I can create, but it's not probably best practices, it doesn't have mobile built in, it doesn't have these things. Is it something that if I'm good with it, I build site after site after site with it, is it still good to like venture out of that and learn how to style a site using a different whole way of going about it?
I think it's always good to challenge yourself to learn something new on every project. That's the way that I DIY'd my way. I came to WordPress in 2010 and progressively gave myself new challenges on every website, going from really small brochureware websites that I would design for a musician, and then getting bigger and bigger and taking on challenges of doing more CSS, creating a child theme, building content, but then not just stopping at the content, but using HTML to do really cool things to style the pages and build specific pages for specific needs. I do encourage taking those steps yourself. But if you're not interested in coding, it's not something you enjoy doing, you don't want to do it at all, then I don't necessarily suggest taking that as your challenge. I would say maybe take challenges on the side of search engine optimization and marketing and how do I build a landing page that converts, But I do think you should be taking some challenge on every project.
Are you coding right now, or are you're looking for something really visual?
I do a little bit of coding. I mean, I build, interior divs into pages where content goes and stuff like that, but I'm not a natural coder.
So there's a couple new products out in the market. One's ASOP Story Engine. It's been around for a little bit. ASOP's run by...
Can you say it louder?
ASOP, it's AESOP Story Engine. They're an awesome story. They're built on story. So their whole thing is you make a story for a page and then you design out that story for that page. So there's a lot of cool UI with them. And they do a lot of cool stuff. They just released a new product called Lasso. I think it's them that's released Lasso. Maybe they released something. I forgot the name of it now, but it's a front-end editor tool. So for your clientele, they wouldn't actually have to even go into WordPress. They can edit what you visually designed for them directly from the front end. So that might be more of tools that you might want for your clientele, easier for you to code and then easier for them to update.
I'll add my opinion on this. So I came into WordPress kind of from a business owner. Just needed to make a website and then kind of learned my way through and started getting really good at WordPress as I went along. But I would say you come to a point where the options that are out there right now to do customization to a site are limited once in the drag and drop space. You knew most of what you want to do, but at some point you hit a roadblock and you have to start learning HTML and CSS. And it may seem daunting at first, but you can get through it pretty fast. The resource I recommend is Codecademy. They have a bunch of different free classes on there, but their classes on HTML and CSS go over a lot of stuff really fast and can get you off and running really quickly. Right off the bat, you're not going to make an incredible website, but it'll start you on a process that will free you from all these issues we're talking about and really take it to the next level where you can do basically whatever you want with the site.
Yeah, Code Academy is cool. I've used that.
About the, going back to the
Visual Composer?
Yeah, Visual Composer. I'm actually working with a client right now. They're crazy about Visual Composer, and we're building a series of sites with Visual Composer. I'm not too familiar with it, so I'm concerned about it, like getting locked in, like you're talking about. Can you give me some real-world examples of what, I mean, other than style issues? Is that mainly what you're talking about? You're talking about plugins?
I'm talking specifically about structured data.
Structured data.
The entire, okay, so this sounds like a high-end technical idea. It's not. Structured data is like one of the most fundamental reasons that you're using WordPress, which is that if you have a bunch of things you put in, you have dates, you have titles, you have content, and it remembers how all that data sits together, right? It says that, like, I put in a blog post, it has a title, it has a date, it has content, and I can give you those things back as you expect them to be, and then you can use that data, you can use it, and you can style it however you want. You can present that data the way you want it to. It's a really important thing to be able to do, because then that allows you to use lots of different themes, right? You can put a different theme, the content is always the content, the title is always the title, it's not confused around that, right? So that's a fundamental aspect of any content management system. It's not special to WordPress, it's just like modern thinking about the web. Visual Composer changes that. What they put inside of the field in the database that should just hold your post content is a bunch of pseudocode. They wrap everything in short code. So then later when you're like, well, I know that on the About page we have that Visual Composer slider, and we can just use that again. So let's just use that again. Now you've gone to a different theme and you've turned off Visual Composer. That data is now like a weird garbled mess of like bars and all kinds of weird stuff. So that's why I think it's a little troubling to build something around it that you're not totally comfortable with. Again, if you're fine with that basic aspect, which some people are, it's not a big deal. But if you're building something that's like data rich and data deep, and they want to be able to move away from that, or maybe they want to change platforms in the future, that's not possible without huge amounts of lifting to like break all that up into further structured data.
So maybe for like a small brochure-ware site, it might work for like a small company, but it's a company that's going to have a data relationships and possible, need to shift in some of the data structures. That's going to be a problem.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I also think that, like, really, even for a small brochure website, there's so many other good solutions that unfortunately do require a little bit of CSS and HTML to make the front end look good. But like Advanced Custom Fields you can do all the same stuff. It can be just as easy for your clients, and it is something that is agnostic. It doesn't care about, even if you took away ACF, you can still find that data. It is where it is in the database. So that's the big thing with anything you're going to use that's promising you access to your data, is make sure it's not garbling that data for other things that want to understand it.
Yeah, have people heard of Advanced Custom Fields before?
I just
you guys
heard
know what that is? Okay. Nathan, you use Advanced Custom Fields quite a bit. Could you talk a little bit about your experience in relating it to someone that might be just getting started in Advanced Custom Fields?
Okay, yeah, I mean, it gives you a way to have that structured data so it's not all dumped in the post area. Like your standard example would be like if you have a recipe section, and say you're not using a plugin, but you just have a post, and your client wants to be able to style, or as a designer, you want to be able to style, the subtitle one way, you want the instructions to be a different way, you want the recipe ingredients to be structured a different way, and styled and italicized and indented. Without something like Advanced Custom Fields, you have to dump all of that into the big post editor, and the users have to style everything and hit italics on the right section, and maybe go into the HTML view and add CSS classes, and it's very cumbersome. Whereas with this, you can design what your fields are that are important for your data. So you can just, here are the recipes, here's the instructions, here's the ingredients, and then in the code, then you can style those individually. But it kind of child-proofs the admin, so that your client just puts it in the right fields, and then it comes out styled the correct way.
And what do you think the learning curve is like for somebody that would want to take on Advanced Custom Fields? What's a good resource where they can go to learn it?
Their site has really good documentation. I would say
Which site?
Their site, the Advanced Custom Fields website, has a bunch of documentation.
AdvancedCustomFields.com.
Yeah.
They have their own little mini codex.
Yeah.
That's the plugin, right?
That's a plugin.
Yes.
And
This is not how it has a course on Advanced Custom
What is it called?
Lynda.com.
Lynda.com has a course on advanced custom fields. And Lynda.com also has some really good courses on WordPress in general. So if you're just getting started in WordPress from the very beginning, there's some good courses just getting up and running on Lynda.com.
Talk about flex content at all. I think that's one of the coolest things about ACF.
Can you guys?
Yeah, if you're just getting started, though, I don't know if that's
not super useful.
It is very
Can
cool.
you guys talk a little more about a couple of your favorite themes other than just working from the ground up? It could be paid or free. Do you have like one or two favorite themes? Because I know people, they're like looking for really good themes.
2015.
2015.
I think it's a nice theme. It's responsive. It looks pretty good. You can child theme it very easily to tweak it, and it comes built into WordPress. Like, what more could you ask for from a free theme? You don't even have to really worry about it. It's just there one day. I think it's one of the best built-in themes that we've seen in a long time. I thought they kind of went bonkers with 2014 a little bit, and 2013 was kind of off, but I think the 2015 is really, really clean look, and it's really responsive, and I use it when for anything else. If I'm developing something locally or just putting like something together, it's what I use for my own stuff, because it's easy to use, easy to mess with.
I would say almost any theme from StudioPress. So I built all of my client sites. I build primarily using the Genesis framework.
The what framework?
Genesis.
Oh, Genesis.
Yeah, so that's what StudioPress basically. All their themes are built upon the Genesis framework, and they have child themes that you can purchase as well. And they still have some of their older ones on there that aren't as great. The newer ones, and they keep coming out with new ones. They're getting better and better. And they have industry-specific themes. So they've got like a real estate theme. I saw it today. I think they came out with it maybe this month or last month, but they have one specifically for authors. But I mean, the designs I think are great, modern looking, and from a developer standpoint, they're really well coded. So yeah, I would go with the StudioPress. I guess primarily the one theme company I stick with.
What do you guys think? Do you have a couple of themes that you would go with if you were developing with a theme?
I build a lot from scratch, but I do like Stargazer. It's a free one on the repository. It's made by Justin Tadlock. It's very simple, has a lot of nice, easy customizations, and it works with the theme customizer.
Yeah, anything by Justin Tadlock would be good. And he contributes a lot to the community. He specifically thinks about theming a lot, and anything that he's giving away for free will work for a long time and will look good, and he does things correctly. So again, it's something that if you're modifying stuff, you're not learning bad habits. I also have just started, I feel so strange recommending anything that's paid for, but Array themes. They have some really nice stuff. It's done well. It's very, very pretty. It's all responsive. Good for writers. It's nice looking stuff.
Natalie, what do you think?
I really like for free themes the default themes that come with WordPress. So 2015, awesome. 2014 was a little weird. 2013 can be a little off-putting because it's orange and brown and yellow, but it actually child themes really nicely and has beautiful typography, so don't give up on it too fast. And then for paid themes, I really like organic themes. They only have maybe about 15 different themes, but they are really simple, really clean, easy to customize, and really well written.
I know a lot of people like elegant themes, so that's Divi and all those. From a developer point of view, I don't really like them, but I know that a lot of people do like them. They do have Visual Composer baked in, and so a lot of people do like them. I just don't care for them myself.
I just bought that just because I'm trying to learn, whatever. But and I started noodling around with it a little bit. But what's your negatives on it?
On Elegant?
Yeah, like Divi.
Well, they are Visual Composer baked in. I'm not a huge fan of Visual Composer.
Right. Yeah.
Divi
is their main theme.
Yeah, that's their primary one. That one does have the visual. It's not Visual Composer. It's their specific page builder.
It is Divi.
No, it is.
It is Visual Composer.
Is it Visual
They
Composer?
rebranded it.
It's a Visual
It's not
Composer library.
different. It's the same thing.
So the reason from a development point of view, I just don't like Art Control, which is me and Greg's company, is built on Divi. I didn't mind it because Greg kind of took control over that site and said, "Yeah, I'm just going to put something up."
I like
and
Divi.
it came out really well. Like I think it came out really nice. It looks pretty good. And for a person who's, let's say, a designer background, it's an easy to put together site, and it comes out pretty good. When I went in there, I was like, okay, now I got to start modifying a few things. Like the sidebar had a border on the side, so on some pages that were full width, I had to remove that border. That took me about 3 hours just to find out where that thing was, because they put it in the most horrible spot in the CSS, and it took me forever to find it. So from let me build something really quick that looks good, fine, maybe it works okay if you're going to be fine kicked into Visual Composer and what Elegant Themes is, but as soon as you start tweaking around with the code, it's just all hell.
Just so people have perspective, on a standards built theme, how long should it take you to find that border and take it out?
2 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, even with the artist sphere thing, I can just go into the CSS, I can find what that little instruction is, and I can go into the CSS.
So you know how you probably use the inspector in Chrome or anything else?
Yeah.
That sidebar border wasn't in the inspector. Like, you actually had to click around and look for it because it was in a random pseudo element.
Oh, I love this.
Random pseudo element.
It wasn't a border. It was like a background of a pseudo element, but it was
That drive me crazy.
Yeah.
For 3 hours.
Better than Elegant Themes would be where you say I like this one more.
If you want like something to start with.
Hey, Roy, repeat the question.
What else would I start with?
No, that's Starly. More.
Something that's like a little bit more than elegant, but not quite like a starter theme.
Right.
A lot of the themes that they chose are a lot better, I would say. And since most of these guys are developers, I'd recommend that because if you do want to start getting into the code, at least you're not looking at horrible code. You're looking at something that's pretty decently put together. I'm trying to think of something else I've used that I liked. As I said, I like the default 2015 a lot because it's so easy just to mess with, and the code's really simple.
I think just to kind of like on top of that, there's kind of this like balancing act of how easy do you want to customize it versus how well is it coded kind of thing. So you kind of have to find where you're at. You know, like if you don't want to mess with any of the code, but you want a really nice looking theme, you're going to be more on the, okay, it's not going to be as well coded, easy for a developer to handle side of it. Whereas if you go the other way, where it's like easiest, you know, a developer can get in there and start adjusting it as easily as possible, it's going to be harder for you to customize without knowing code. So that's, you kind of have to balance it a little bit.
Have you used the theme customizer at all?
No, I have used Divi now, but it's usually just like most things, you change the footer, you know, like copyright or whatever. Divi was pretty difficult to actually go into.
So, in my perspective, you know, it's interesting. Roy and I work together a lot, and he does have an opinion on Elegant and Divi that's like, don't use it. It's not cool. And I feel bad that I forced him to but I come from a different perspective, so I see it in a different light. I was looking at Elegant Themes and I was saying, wow, this is a pretty nice looking theme, and it's built on Bootstrap, so it's going to be responsive. I was like, I can build websites really quickly and easily, small websites. So for me, I saw it as a solution. So I was really digging, Divi, and seeing it as like, oh, I can spin up websites really fast. But that's my strategy is speed, so build a quick child theme, put a style.css into the child theme, begin to make the site look the way I want it to. It's almost putting cosmetic first, or the look and the design first, and everything else second. But I respect the people that I work with, that are my teammates, that are the people that I trust to do deeper level development on projects that I'm going out and bringing in, bidding on. So Divi's not the best solution for that. One of the sites that we did last year, really great one, was built on underscores and Bootstrap. And what else did we use of that?
I thought you were talking about the one that we did at Divi.
No. We did one at Divi too. You know, it's not only did I
saved in mine, and then we just switched it out. I think it's pretty easy to get caught up in like I don't think there's any shame in using like if you have a solution that works for you, like I wouldn't feel like ashamed that it's not best practices because you could build something best practices and in 5 years it's going to be crap anyway. Like something that I would have built, even if I built it perfectly 5 years ago, now today wouldn't be responsive. Like a lot of these things are temporary. Like if it's a client that you're going to be working with on retainer every month and adding things and they have hundreds of pages, it's a much bigger deal than a restaurant that has 5 pages. And like it's important to challenge yourself and learn things, but if you have a process that works, I wouldn't be like ashamed of that process.
One thing I'd still like to add, the customizer, which is kind of the baked-in WordPress theme modifier, so like allows you to like change the header, title, and like the widgets and stuff. It's built in. News came out that any theme that's in the repo has to utilize that. There's no more like a lot of the themes you find have like a theme settings page. They're gonna ban essentially get rid of all those and make it all of this like customizer. Like basically you change a setting, you see it, and then you can save it. So I recommend if you're just looking for a theme that you can easily customize, look for things that are already in the theme repository of WordPress because they're going to start getting rid of the ones that don't use customizer for their customization.
Or even if you're buying stuff and it only has an options page, and it's a really long options page and does not use the customizer, again, in 6 months you might have a lot of issues with that when WordPress surpasses that. So you want to just be keeping an eye on it. It's not an automatic no, but think about it.
Okay, I'm seeing a couple of hands go up, so we're going to like just go to the audience really quick. There was a question in the back. Draven, did you have a question?
Yeah. I was wondering if any of the hardcore developers rely on the Roots.io framework, which is a very efficient Bootstrap version. It leverages the native Bootstrap assets pipeline, so it's way more performant than your typical Bootstrap / underscore style thing.
No, Greg? No one's used that. Oh, the question is anybody on the panel here using Roots.io?
Correct.
No.
I've used it.
Yeah.
Oh, you've used it?
So, yeah. Go for it, Nathan.
Oh no, I've looked at it, but
So I used it actually a couple times, and I like it a lot for what it is. It's a really good development tool.
Yes.
I find it a little cumbersome because they have a new way of templating that doesn't really conform to, let's say, the rest of WordPress. So it's really smart, don't get me wrong. It's a whole don't repeat yourself mentality of coding. So it makes a lot of sense. It's just if you are wanting to continuously build sites and have a quick turnaround, I wouldn't recommend it because it took me quite a while as a developer to usually start going with Roots, to the point where we were going to use Roots actually on a project at Disney, and I took what I loved about Roots and then made another theme. And I was like, I don't like all of this stuff, I want to just grab all the stuff I want, and I created a separate theme altogether, and that's what we start all our basically all projects off of now.
Okay, we're going to jump over here really quick. Go for it.
Yeah, I had heard that Google changed their search engine, coding and rules and stuff. So is Yoast still the one true God?
Is Yoast the #1 SEO plugin out there?
I would say this. I mean, Yoast is just a tool, really.
The plugin or the guy?
Oh, well, yeah. Are you asking about the plugin or the guy?
Oh no, I'm sorry, the plugin.
The plugin, okay.
I mean, he's great. By the way, on the record, I think he's one of the best.
So I mean, it's just a tool. I mean, it gets you the basics of SEO, but it primarily just gets you the on-page SEO. For that, it does a really good job. I think it's like #1 plugin for that. But talking about algorithm changes and things like that, most of those algorithm changes have to do primarily with off-page SEO, which that really doesn't have any effect on. The most recent algorithm change was the mobile-friendly. Yeah, but Ghost doesn't really help you at all.
That's what's responsive, nothing to do with this.
Yes, so I mean, like, the other algorithm changes were things like, it has to do a lot with like link building and things like that, which Yoast doesn't really do very much for. So I mean, Yoast as a plugin is probably the #1 plugin for WordPress. It's the one I use. But when you're talking about like algorithm changes and Google and all that stuff's happening off-site primarily.
How do you spell Yoast?
Yoast.
Okay, yes.
I'm talking about the flexibility of the front end as we were earlier. I was wondering, have any of you decoupled the front end from the back end through the REST interface yet? And then use the front end, say with Angular and on the front end, and then go to the back end?
Okay, you want to just repeat the question and then answer it?
I don't understand the question. Basically, she's asking if someone's decoupled the WordPress backend from the front end. So basically taking what you guys consider a theme and not connecting it in any way to the backend content. Yes, we have. Code Cavalry, as an example, is an AngularJS single-page application, which runs on one WordPress page, as you might call it, but it's really a multi-page application.
Well, I've actually done it, just so many people are asking. I wanted to give you a chance to just throw it out in case people might know that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's powered with the JSON REST API, which is now this new thing that's coming out. It's a feature plugin that's going to be coming into core, they're hoping this year. I've contributed to it, I work on it, I'm constantly talking to the people that are developing it. But then I'm mainly a user of it. So we built Code Cavalry with it, I built websites for Disney and other things with it. Decoupling kind of the back end from the front end is definitely something I see kind of WordPress doing a lot in the future. And that's kind of what we're talking about, where I see it going. I see a lot of people doing that. And I see people even creating different stacks. So basically your LAMP stack, which is what WordPress runs on, taking a completely different stack, let's say a Node stack, which is a completely different language, a completely different server altogether, and then creating this huge application over there, but then powering it with this WordPress on the other side. So
because the back end is so easy to use.
Exactly. I mean, that's what WordPress is known for. It's content management. So you have a great content management system powering something way more powerful.
Afterwards, I have a jQuery plugin that handles all the connections for you automatically to the WordPress JSON. So afterwards, I'd like to talk to you about maybe where I could put this up, just so, because people don't really go to WordPress to look for a jQuery plugin. I was going to ask you where I would put up my code. It's on my Git, but somebody might not know.
So like, where would you put your...
Yeah, how would I let somebody
that's probably more like a one-on-one question.
Yeah, just ask me afterwards and we can talk about it.
Okay, we're going to go back to Twitter on this next question. And for those of you that are still wanting to ask your questions via Twitter, you can do it at HWWP Meetup. So, go there, ask your questions. This one is, do you have a recommendation of a light box slideshow that is responsive and customizable? So can you recommend a Lightbox slideshow that is responsive and customizable?
Can I ask whoever asked that to be more specific, like a Lightbox and a slideshow, or a Lightbox, like a slideshow in a Lightbox? Those are two separate pieces of functionality usually. Lightbox is the thing you click on, it opens the image or piece of content larger, a slider is a slider.
Yes, but there's a lot of Lightboxes to allow you to see several images.
Oh, see, yeah, so scroll to have a gallery within a Lightbox, and that's, but not necessarily auto-playing or something?
Right.
Okay.
Do you guys have one that you would suggest?
I mean, I loved FancyBox until they had a huge security breach, and I had to update every FancyBox I've ever installed. But I think they're good. I think they fixed that problem. FancyBox. It was across the whole thing.
Yes.
JavaScript plus.
Short Codes Ultimate.
Short Codes Ultimate.
Quick, easy little plugin that does all of the above.
All right.
Food Box, right? Food Box is pretty well known.
Foodbox,
I've liked a lot.
Food box, yeah.
I like a jQuery, I think it's called Featherlight. It's a really lightweight jQuery plugin that does light boxes and has the gallery portion of it is actually a module add-on. It's another JS file. That's how light the actual light box is. It's great if you are developing something from scratch. It's really minimal. The last one, jQuery, I think it's Featherlight is what it's called.
Okay, so I don't know if this is a question, we're just going to go for it. How do I improve meta descriptions to increase SEO using Yoast? So I know we're kind of straddling the line there. Do you guys have some kind of, if we can just contribute something?
So I used to do SEO a lot. I mean, the meta description has some importance, but it's not the most important aspect of it. But if you're looking to improve it, I mean, the only thing I would say is one, try to include the keyword that you're targeting on that page, and make it enticing. Because I mean, that's what's going to be, yeah.
Yeah, that's my question, because that's what I've been trying to do and on the side bar with Yoast, like you get like either a green light or a red light. Somebody's goes from good, somebody's goes to poor, and I still can't figure out.
Well, okay, so that with that light, that's just a recommendation. Again, like I said, Yoast is just a tool. You have to have the knowledge of SEO to really understand what's going on there. So if you're talking about the meta description affecting that, it could be that you're either going over the 156 character limit, you're not mentioning your keyword exactly as you put it in the focus keyword. If you don't do that, that's fine. Like Google's smart enough to realize, okay, like if you say, for instance, WordPress is one word and then you spell word space press, Google's smart enough to go, okay, that they're trying to say WordPress. But the Yoast plugin might not be smart enough to realize that. So it's really just if you're putting your keyword in there, but that light will be affected by other aspects of what you're adding in to that plugin. So for instance, like the number of times you mention the keyword in your content, how long your content is. There's a page analysis tab. Have you been on that before?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, that will guide you into improving it. It'll say what is going on there. But again, like I said, it's just a guide where, a lot of times I'll write a page and it'll say, oh, you have poor SEO, because I know exactly what I'm doing and I know it's okay to do that.
So it's not that light thing from Yoast is not that reliable.
It's not what?
It's not that reliable as far as...
It's reliable, but again, like it's not Google telling you, it's Yoast telling you. Google's gonna look at your page their own way. It's just recommendations on how to improve it.
They're guidelines.
Yeah, guidelines, yeah.
Think of it as kind of like an air traffic controller. It's less about you have to nail it with the green for Yoast. If you know that you're derivating, and you understand why you're derivating, and it's going to work with Google, you're going to be pumped, even if Yoast does.
Like an example I'll give you, so like on one of my clients' websites, we use advanced custom fields to build real estate listings, and they don't have any actual content box. And Yoast looks at the content box for keywords. So they were getting marked, you don't mention your keyword at all. They were mentioning it in the advanced custom fields content boxes that I created, but the basic plugin, I think the paid plugin might look in those, but the basic plugin doesn't look there for the keywords. So they were saying to them, hey, you haven't mentioned your keyword at all. So my client came to me saying, hey, what's going on here? I said, again, like I said to you, it's because Yoast looks a certain way. The content, the keyword's appearing in your content on the page, but just not where Yoast looks for it in the back end.
I would definitely say don't chase the green ball. Just don't worry about it. Do the best you can with your content and your keywords, but don't go chasing after it. Don't go editing too much and messing something up that Google might see as a bad thing because you want that green circle when you know that you've done a good job with the content already.
Yeah. Yeah, but you can still use the page analysis information to kind of gauge. Like, for instance, like if it's like you've only written 100 characters, you might want to do, or 100 words, you might want to do more. Like, that's a good suggestion. If it's like, hey, you've only mentioned your keyword twice, and you go through and you like throw your keyword in there like 20 more times, that might not be a good idea. Yeah, so.
Okay, so what is the best way to edit the HTML on page's header without touching the PHP? You might have to clarify this question.
Yeah.
Whoever asked it. What is the best way to edit HTML on page's header without touching the PHP? Can you elaborate? Yes.
So yeah, like for example, if I'm going to create a drop down, the huge drop down menu, right?
Yep.
How would the best way to add the more content inside the header?
Items in the menu, or other things that are not part of the menu that are in the header?
Item on the menu, the huge menu.
Are you talking about like a mega menu that has like it's like a headline and a story?
Yeah, the headline and story, and as well as the different category.
Sub-menu?
Yeah, I mean, there is the menus part of WordPress, right? You've done the appearance menus, and so you want to add more than what's available to you there.
I want to add like some of the wording, right? That's
want to change it.
Yeah, like the different wording and different way to categorize. I mean,
well, if you're using categories, there's a way within WordPress to do it. If you're trying to do something else, then you probably need an external plugin to do it without editing the file. I don't know.
Are you saying you just want to rearrange the menu items?
No, not like arrange the menu.
Can we look at the site?
Yeah.
Can you pull it up on laptops?
I would say after.
We'll do that one-on-one.
Yeah.
Yep, okay. So here's the next question. Does there come a point with WordPress where you will need to learn some amount of coding? If so, what language do you start with? Okay, so a point where it's like you've crossed the threshold, now you have to learn how to code. You don't want to. No, I'm joking. I'm gonna elaborate. I'm totally putting words in that's not in there.
I think that's more than 140 characters.
Yeah. No, okay, so the real question is, does there come a point where with WordPress you need to learn some amount of coding? If so, what language do you start with?
Russian.
What's that?
Russian. The point is when you reach the end of the internet, then you can start with Russian.
Well, okay, so if you're a site administrator or a blogger, knowing a little bit of HTML or CSS can be super helpful for just maybe creating a little custom layout on a page in the HTML view or tweaking a color scheme of a theme. If you want to get involved in building custom themes, then I'd say you need to know HTML and CSS really well, and PHP a little bit. WordPress does most of the heavy lifting, like as far as theming is concerned, for you already. There's all these pre-built functions that will fetch all the information you want from the database, and they're very sensibly named. Like if you want the title, you call a function called the title. So it's not like you have to be like this super wizard with PHP to be able to write a custom theme, but you have to know like the syntax and some basic rules about how it works.
Where to put semicolons.
Where to put semicolons.
I would also, what I would recommend, so like I went through that same process where I learned HTML. I knew HTML from when I was younger. Then I learned CSS. Then I started learning PHP just by playing around with themes. Then I got into jQuery and JavaScript. So that was like the order I went in as I learned languages. I would say though, if you want to start getting into PHP and you don't know anything about it, and you want to start doing like theme customizations, I'm going to go back and put a picture in again from StudioPress. I would say Genesis is probably one of the easiest themes to make customizations to, because one, their documentation is really, not the documentation, they have like snippet, like a snippet library, where you can basically go in there and you let's say you Google, I want to be able to change the footer of my site. And they give you the snippet, you just copy and paste into your functions.php. So that'll help you get going with understanding how PHP works. I'm sure there's other themes that do that, but I really like Genesis themes, or StudioPress themes for that specific reason. just because it's really, if you don't know a lot of PHP, you can start messing around with it to begin with.
Genesis has built a built-in snippet library that you can.
It's not built in. It's just a like you go onto their back end and you can it'll say like, oh, you want to remove titles from pages. Here's the code to do that. Put in your functions.php. And then there are other bloggers who have built up their own snippets library. So it's just if you're without getting too advanced, it's just basically different hooks that you're using. But it's a lot easier than having to go like full PHP sometimes. You can just copy paste and then break it and see how to fix it.
I'd just like to add to that, if you're going to go with Genesis or you want to try to do something like that, you might want to look at the dynamic child theme, because it'll expose the functions PHP. So if you want to go in, it's got like a functions PHP little field area you can go in without actually opening up the functions PHP, which you might not want to do when you have the different appearances. So dynamic is like the perfect complement. It's the old Catalyst part of the Catalyst thing, added on top of Studio Press's Genesis, and they're like dynamic is like Batman's utility belt for Batman, which is Genesis. So you want to try to look at the dynamic things.
Question in the back?
Yeah, so how do you guys feel about supporting older browsers that don't support things like BigQuery, CSS3, whereas in Internet Explorer? How do you guys handle that with your clients? And if your clients actually say, hey, I want to support IE 7 or 8 or whatever, do you guys charge extra for that?
Start with assumption.
Our contract that we send over to the client at the start of a project actually calls out which browsers are and aren't supported.
Okay.
And we tell them we're happy to support more if you will pay for the extra time. And so far, no clients have taken me up on that.
Browsers are free.
I mean, I've encountered enterprise clients who have some sort of specific need, but man, it's rare. It's pretty rare that there's somebody who is like at this juncture stuck with like XP and IE7. And the point that you make is, well, do you want something that will continue to function well via Google's mobile algorithm? Do you want something that works across platforms for people in third world countries as well as here? Like, there's so many reasons to not support that browser that far outweigh, and like, unless it's a security thing or like it's some sort of crazy IT like warlock who's messing around with their whole company. I mean, I think that the web is moving forward. You don't want to build something that is already putting you way behind the fold. It's hard to make that justification.
The only part I disagree with on that is, and I don't know why this is, but for some reason when I deal with a lot of like lawyers and accountants, they usually are stuck on older versions of their software for whatever reason. And I mean, the best example is my uncle who's an accountant. His company had to force him to get a BlackBerry. He just wanted to keep his flip phone. I don't know why, but I mean, that's like, they just seem to be stuck with where they're at. So for them, like I've delivered sites and they said, well, all our clients can't pull up our site because they're on Internet Explorer or whatever. So that's the only instance really where I see like I have to kind of go back and okay, let me build this for them. But for the majority of people, like if you're dealing with more consumer-based, like if your client's going to be dealing with more consumer-based customers, then yeah, you don't have to really worry about as much going too backwards compatible.
Isn't it true a lot of corporations are backwards?
I suppose.
You got corporate computers, corporate this, don't touch this. They got IT staff that doesn't want to
I think it used to be the case. I think that Windows, like Microsoft dropping support for XP and dropping support for the old IE, like those people there's no longer an economic incentive to stay there. They're going to have more security problems, and those things are going to fall off more quickly. I think 2 years ago, this was a very different conversation. I think in the last 6 months, things
good point.
Really started to shift.
Yes.
What are your favorite hosting?
Oh yeah, hosting. What are your favorites? Do you have one or two favorites?
Don't need
SiteGround. And by the way, we have socks in the back. SiteGround. As well as those fancy little notepads. I don't know if I mentioned those earlier. So you can draw, you can write while your feet are warm. There's just so many good things happening there.
I would say one thing about SiteGround. I actually like them a lot. I'm a recent convert, and they're great. But having been building on the web for a while, and I'm sure that both of you, all of us have some stories about this, it is inevitable that the hosts we recommend are going to not work. As soon as you all go sign up for SiteGround, eventually they're going to somehow do the bad math that every hosting company that's ever existed does, which is that they put too many people on boxes, they don't have enough tech support, and it starts to slide.
Well, Endurance will probably buy them, so.
Sure. But I think in general, I mean, it's hard to find somebody who's perfect. Most people don't want to pay for Media Temple. They were really good. They just got bought by GoDaddy. I don't. Right now, the service still seems great, but that might change.
Does that have anything to do with GoDaddy's managed hosting and Media Temple together?
Man, I don't work for GoDaddy. I don't know.
I think they're on the same system.
Because GoDaddy now offers quote managed hosting.
Yeah, they bought Media Temple to take those products and expand them, and now Media Temple just as of yesterday is $5 a month.
It's the support that's the difference.
I don't know how they're
your Media Temple support's a little bit better.
That's
not that you get out of it. But Media Temple is like the actual Lexus of GoDaddy.
But they got bought by GoDaddy.
Yeah, but they're like the higher tier. So you pay a little more, you get better support.
Well, I don't know if that's what I'm saying.
But the same exact service.
Yeah, let's see.
I like WP Engine. I don't know what you guys. I mean, they're more expensive.
I'm joking.
They're more expensive, but the thing is, with every host I've ever dealt with, I've always had an issue. With WP Engine, I've yet to have an issue, and none of my clients have had an issue with them. And their support is really quick, and they go out of their way to help you. The thing I love the most, and you're getting this less, but I used to get it a lot, especially with GoDaddy, is you call up and they'd say, "Oh yeah, it's not an issue. We can solve it's a WordPress issue." Where you call up WP Engine and they'll go out of their way to try and help you with whatever's going on. The best part about those, I rarely have to call up WP Engine for any issues. I mean, most of they're on top of everything, and they only host WordPress, so they that's all they know. They're going to stick with WordPress, so that's great. But again, it's expensive. I mean, you start out at $25 for one site. You want to add more sites to your plan, you have to go up to the $100 a month plan. But personally, I think it's worth it, and that's what I host my site on. I do host through SiteGround as well, and I also have Bluehost and HostGator for test sites. But those are the guys I recommend.
It depends what you're building. I think one thing that people ask the hosting question, and they forget to say, I'm hosting this.
Yeah.
If you're hosting a blog website, WP Engine is awesome. I like a lot more than Flywheel, which is one of their main competitors. But Andrew Baylor over here, I think, was WP Engine, had a problem with an e-commerce site on WP Engine, and it was because they had way too many SKUs. And because WP Engine, you have to understand, there's shared hosting behind it all. So when you have something that's a larger website, you're going to hit capacity. Their website's going to may not crash, but it's going to get slow, it's going to get boggy. So he had to switch over to SiteGround because they offer much better specs for their shared hosting. Plus they offer WP's powered VPS, which is pretty unusual in the space. Personally, I run an enterprise level hosting. I love it. I run our websites off of it. There's Zero Lag hosting out in Sherman Oaks. I pay $100 a month, but I get a really good VPS out of it. So it really depends on what you are building before you say, hey, this is the best host, because there is a correlation there. And you don't need a VPS if you're hosting a blog site. It's too much money. But if you have a high-level e-com site, then a VPS or a dedicated machine might be more appropriate.
I would say from a point of view of doing client sites, I used to not think this, but I kind of think having a few different options that you go to that work with different things, even though it's a little harder on you, prevents you from the point when SiteGround does get slow, you have no other option. So I'm always in a constant weird amoeba of sites that don't recommend it.
Nathan, what do you think about hosting?
I mean, I've hosted with a lot of different hosts. I think you go through the honeymoon period with each of them, and then you get really pissed whenever they do something. Like, I used to really like WP Engine, and I've had a lot of stuff happen. I've had them redirect all live traffic to a staging site when I opened a support request. When they were supposed to fix something semi-related to that, it was like that way for a day. I've had to try to use one of their backup restore points, and they were not there. They just said, it wasn't working for 5 days, so here's the one from 6 days ago. I mean, I've had a lot of stuff happen, but that happens on every host. My site, my personal site right now is hosted with SiteGround, but I mean, I have like 7 different hosting accounts, and I'm sure SiteGround will do something at some point to piss me off too.
I like DreamHost a lot too.
I've
had really bad experiences with DreamHost, but I think they've come around now. Like every host kind of has this cycle, right? Where it's like, it's really good, and you have this honeymoon phase, and then they do something really stupid, and you're like, I'm gonna get off of you, or they get bought out by some horrible corporation, and they suck. But DreamHost now has somehow come around the other end, and is now being good again. So,
do they have phone?
Phone support?
You only have to be able to write
phone support, but their Twitter support is really good. It's like and they support the WordPress community a lot. And so a lot of the people you might see around WordCamps and meetups are DreamHost people, and they actually pay for a WordPress evangelist. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Evangelist, yeah, who just sits and goes WordPress all day. Like, that's pretty cool of them. So I like DreamHost. Their office is really cool.
So this is a good question right here. Do you want to ask a question real quick? Go for it.
Well, I just had a quickie. CDN, do we recommend that? Do we need that? It's expensive, and does it really save? What's that?
It's not expensive. Max CDN, I think, starts at like $5 a month.
You
like
can get
$5,
a
If
$7.
you're clients that sort of service, though, you don't want to charge them flat for that. You have to count for your time that you take to implement this.
Well, if you're gonna do, I like Max CDN for like a do-it-yourself, but if you want to go, I like using I always get confused. CloudFront.
Cloudflare.
CloudFront. Amazon. Yeah, I like that because that's incredibly cheap for what you're getting. Because you only pay for what you use. Like Max CDN, you're paying for like a certain amount of bandwidth a month, and your client might not use all of that. So I go with CloudFront. It's not as easy to set up though. It's not super complex, but it's not as easy as Max CDN. But
you mean Cloudflare? Well, I've never heard of
CloudFront's
Cloudfront.
on Amazon.
That's another one.
Cloudflare, I know, is pretty good too.
Oh, okay.
Cloudflare's good, yeah.
CloudFront.
But CloudFront, you mean like I think at one point I had, like 5 client sites running through there. They weren't big sites, there's small local business sites, maybe getting 20 to 50 visitors a day. But I mean, I was only getting charged $1 a month or something. Like it was really low. So that's
the basic idea is that if you're in Asia, there's a CDN in Asia. If you're in Europe,
replicating the various locations.
Excellent. And so that speeds things up. Is that
sure. It's that, and also like it offloads like the resources from just your one server. It's that, and like so the images aren't coming from that same server. So it's kind of speeding things up there as well.
But it depends what kind of CDN you use. So Akamai, which has been around for ages, uses a certain type of CDN technology that says, hey, you're in Los Angeles, you're going to be going to our Los Angeles CDN server set, right? But Max CDN says, hey, you're in Los Angeles, I don't care where you are, where's the fastest server to you? So where are you going to get the quickest result? Maybe that's in New York or somewhere else, because some people are actually logging up the LA one. So there's actually differences within CDNs based on their technology. So Akamai has to essentially combat that with more server farms, essentially, while Max CDN's technology is already there for like non-geo-specific serving. As far as like time it takes to set it up, you can't talk about CDN without talking about like caching and stuff like that, because they kind of go hand in hand. And every single caching plugin for WordPress has a Max CDN, like, put your 3 credentials in here and you're now Max CDN. So it's a really easy setup. I couldn't, I love them. They're awesome.
And you generally recommend CDN
if you're talking about like a high image, you're doing a lot of images, which a lot of websites are. I'd almost say anytime, but yeah, maybe there's some use cases where it's like you don't really need it. But
text blog,
you can still but it's not just images. It's JavaScript and
like
CSS.
crazy. Like, are you New York Times blogger. Like, come on, not everyone needs to set up a CDN. That's absurd.
Can you give us a little bit? I'm not really familiar why you use a CDN. What's the benefit of it?
So CDN stands for
Content Delivery Network.
Content Delivery Network.
So like YouTube, for instance, they are some of the first people who absolutely had to have this because they couldn't like serve from only one server all the video, all of the video.
Netflix. Well, right?
Well, I mean, they got big bandwidth, but what this does is it spreads it all out. So they have lots of points that have all of the YouTube data replicated around the world, and they're either delivering what's fastest or geolocated. I don't know, but it basically just spreads the load of all that stuff around.
So
now for consumers, we can do the same sort of thing that enterprises are doing for us.
So it's designed to meet demand, basically.
Absolutely.
But for consumer level, it's typically stuff on your site that would be static, that would get served locally. You know, so like for instance, you have a lot of images on your site. That would be something that doesn't change a lot, and that your CDN would work really well to make your website load fast, even though it's got a bunch of images on it.
Right. Just to describe how it works a little bit, but let's say you have a WP engine, right? So you have a shared, thing over there. So when someone accesses your website, the JavaScript files, CSS files, and image files come from that one server. So now let's say you have 1,000 people coming to your website. There's 1,000 people trying to get all that stuff from one server. Right. CDN says, all right, well, let's get it from over here and over here and over here. So they're not actually grabbing that from your server. So it actually puts a lot less strain onto your server.
So the big benefit is load time.
Load time and bandwidth, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we are going to do one more question. Well, Andrew, I wanted you to get a chance to say what you're going to say.
Well, I wanted to ask, has anyone heard of Pantheon hosting? Alex Vasquez says he's using it. And,
Pantheon hosting.
It's like
I love Pantheon hosting.
They are
developer level or something.
super pricey, but they're awesome.
Yeah, they have WordPress too.
Yeah, they're actually really focused on WordPress now, and they're amazing. They're like, if you're doing a high-end project and they say whatever hosting we need, pay for it, get them. They're amazing.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Really? So you've had good experience with them.
Yeah, I mean, their stuff's
I absolutely want to use them. I have no use case for them right
When
now.
you say pricey, what do you mean?
hundreds of dollars a month.
Yeah.
No, they have a starting at WordPress $25 a month.
That's
So I think they're trying to enter in
with the full like all the developer stuff.
Yeah, like
Their
that.
server
I
stack
think
is
they're coming down.
amazing, and they're always updating it. So
Yeah,
it's,
check out
With
their
all the
site.
developer stuff, it's $250 a month.
Yeah.
But, so it's 25, you know.
That's
So your base model is like 250.
I will tell you that the one issue I have with Pantheon, which is why I can't use them, like for CodeCal where I wanted to use them, if you are a hardcore developer and you're using Git for everything,
Yeah.
you can't use Git for, let's say, your build, and then let's say have another Git repo for a plugin or a Git repo for your theme. It has to be one big Git repo. So when I said, hey, I want to put Code Cavalry on this, I had already separated out the theme and the plugin into two separate repos. So it wouldn't allow me to actually use Pantheon without changing up my workflow, and my workflow is my one thing that I love, so I decided not to use them.
So not even a sub-module.
Can't use sub-modules.
I would say that I just moved. I have one client who's on Pantheon. Pantheon's really great. But I would say if you aren't familiar with like Git and all that, it can get a little too complex. So stick away from it if you don't want to get into that complexity. But if you are more advanced, it definitely is great.
You have to understand what like dev, staging, and production, those kind of environments mean to really utilize Pantheon for what it is.
It's good for distributed teams, though. They got all kinds of neat little tools.
Awesome.
Okay, so this is the last question of the night. I think it's a pretty good last one. What WordPress learning resources, including groups, would you recommend to someone looking to grow their WordPress user circles?
Circles.
Yeah, like circle of like community, like your
Hollywood WordPress.
Hollywood WordPress. There's actually is a Facebook. There actually is a Facebook group / HWWP, but it's pretty much like a ghost town. But this is something that if you guys wanted to make this something that we use that community and you guys are able to share ideas, ask questions there, it's there for us. That resource is there. So Facebook / HWWP. But people have to get in there and they have to start using it. So far, it has not been a priority of people. But there are some other resources.
Facebook is awesome though.
Yeah. Facebook.
I mean, there's a lot of groups on there.
That's true. There's Orange County. That's a good
It's not
one.
even talking about meetups. There's non-meetup specific groups that are fantastic on there. Some of them are so large that they've now splintered off into more subset groups. So you have like advanced WordPress users or developers, you have intermediate level, you have designers. So basically, if you just go to Facebook and you type in WordPress and look for all the groups, you're bound to find a group that is specific to what you want or what you're going after. And it's probably filled with people already talking and asking questions and stuff like that.
You also on LinkedIn, but just on LinkedIn, there's some that are like legit where people are asking questions and contributing, and then there are some where it's just people posting spam all day long. So you just gotta look for the good ones. Just go on LinkedIn groups and like type in WordPress and kind of just see what people are posting, and you'll figure it out really fast. It's a legit group.
What are some other good learning resources? So learning resources, including groups, that you'd recommend to grow circles. So
to grow social, like
I guess to grow a circle of WordPress users.
All social.
I mean, the WordPress.org like forums and support forums is really good. The codex is really good. Looking at that and contributing to it is a huge way. If you start to be involved with the larger WordPress community, to some degree, it will pay back hugely. So that's, going in, you find a bug, you go to that plugin site, you post the bug in the forum, tell them what happened. Maybe you say in that post, I'm not going to use this plugin anymore because it broke, so it is what it is, and you move on to use something else. But posting that, if it's a good plugin author, they're going to fix it. You've now contributed to the community. You can also go on the docs and you can fill something out. You can say, this is confusing, I want to change this documentation because I tried what was laid out here and it's wrong, and I figured out the right way to do it. All those things will suddenly make you someone that people are looking to for answers, and you start to get in a larger conversation. I think that that part of the WordPress community is very real. It's very people are paying attention. They want to answer your questions. It's there. That's
if you do have a more advanced question that can't be answered in like a Facebook group, there's always Code Cavalry. So you can go to codecavalry.com.
Of course there is.
It's a great resource.
Go there.
And I'm dovetailing. I'm just advertising my own product. But the point is, it's still a good resource. I mean, even though I'm advertising my own product, it doesn't stop the fact that it's a good resource. It does cost a little money for sessions. You spend 20 minutes, half an hour, but it might save you hours and hours of work yourself if you are able to connect with a developer and get some help. So,
WordCamp Central.
WordCamp
WordCamp Central is the place where all the WordCamps you can find out where all the WordCamps are. Because WordCamps are run by the foundation, which is a nonprofit, most of the tickets are usually like in the $40 range for a weekend. So it makes a really good excuse to take a vacation somewhere. Like my fiance was like, hey, we should go to New York sometime. And I'm like, all right, let me figure out where their WordCamp is. And it's just a justification for going out there, and I can try to talk at the WordCamp, and it just makes for a good excuse. But WordCamps, I've noticed across the country that I've been to, everyone's super friendly. Like you can go into a WordCamp that's not even in your geolocation. Like I went, I think, to Toronto and stuff, and people there were just so welcoming. And it was just like, I don't know anyone here. It's snowing outside. I don't know what that means, but people are like, hey, what are you here for? And every WordCamp I go to,
getting involved in live events that are WordPress is a really great way to find camaraderie or support as you're learning and growing and all that good stuff. So WordCamps, Orange County is coming up. Oh wait, that one's all sold out anyways, right? Okay.
Thanks for the tip on that, by the way.
On
the tickets, there was 4 tickets left when I signed.
All right, cool. Oh, nice. Well, you were one of the last people to get the tickets.
September.
LA?
September.
LA's in September, but there's some other ones that'll be happening, and there's Vegas, and there's in December, and then there's Phoenix.
October is San Francisco? Are they doing San Francisco this year?
No, it's not announced. It's WordCamp USA.
Cool.
For groups, local in LA, Karen in the back. If you're a beginner, runs a WordPress 101 group twice a month.
What's your name?
And then I also am the chapter leader for our local Los Angeles chapter of a group called Girl Develop It. We do coding and software development classes. We're targeted at women, but any anybody is welcome to attend any of our events, and we do have some different WordPress classes, as well as classes for learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript, anything else that you might want to learn.
Can you repeat that again?
Girl, develop it.
You have a Facebook group too, don't you?
We have a Facebook group, we have a Twitter account, and we're on Meetup.
Yeah, there's like what, 20, as we talked about, 20 some odd meetups between Ventura and San Diego. You're bound to run into one. There's one in Pasadena that Nathan runs.
Topanga, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Wherever your neighborhood is, there's a WordPress meetup.
Cool. Well,
Meetup.com.
That's going to wrap up our Q&A for this time. What did you guys think of the Q&A format? Is that working good? Okay.
I didn't know how to send the
The
question.
host is great too.
Did the sending of the question not work?
I didn't know how to do it.
Oh, okay.
A little form on the, like, how the WordPress website.
Gravity forms.
Is there anybody that had a question that wasn't able to ask it because they couldn't figure out the tweeting thing?
I tweeted in, but I don't know, you didn't ask.
Oh,
I thought you did.
I mean, I don't think I got it.
No raunchy question.
Yeah, I was like, Andrew Bayless question. No,
He's like,
he will
I
not
couldn't
get
find
his
your Twitter feed.
question answered ever. So, yes.
Just a quick question. What do you guys use for a backup WordPress on a regular basis?
I use Backup Buddy.
Backup Buddy.
Backup Buddy.
I use VaultPress. I go simple.
What's
Backup Buddy with the server backup that's built in.
Backup.
Why would you do that? I use WP DB Manager, and then I do cron jobs from the files. What's wrong with that?
Nothing. Bragger.
What is
Cool.
Nathan-
Well,
what does
I
Nathan
would
do?
like to thank our panelists, Roy, Brandon, you guys feel free to hang around here a little while longer. Use this time to build some of that camaraderie and get to know some of the people in the community. Ask them what they're doing with WordPress. Tell them what you're doing with WordPress. Pick up some socks off the back table because they keep your feet warm. And use SiteGround hosting. And get some of their little pad devices, their little pad things to write on, and some pens back there. All right, we'll see you guys next month. Thanks for coming out.